And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Red Devils. This is your latest Manchester United news, including a potential Casemiro exit, a big Patrick Dorgu update, as well as a bit of a look at where things lie for the likes of Marcus Rashford and whether it's a bit of a warning for the rest of the squad about who Ruben Amorim is as a coach and how he kind of conducts himself with regards to players who are potentially going to fit in, and kind of where we sort of then stand really in terms of the week ahead and the season ahead, and what we've got to look forward to, and what we need to try and sort of salvage out of the season ahead. So obviously we're back in action on Thursday. I think it's Thursday in the Europa League. I'm 99% sure. Yeah, it is at 8 o'clock on Thursday against FCSB. So obviously a very big game for us just to make sure we book that spot. And then a game against Crystal Palace this weekend where a win could put us a point out of getting into 10th. Big news here. That's pretty much how bad our season is at the moment. But anyway, we're not going to dwell too much on that because it's going to be a long season if we're really going to start picking apart every single bad result and the likes of that. We'll also be talking a little bit about how we've regressed in the last 2 years, because it's been 2 years since the day since Manchester United went on that unbelievable run under Erik ten Hag. I think it was about 12 or 13 games with wins in a row, a bit of a record run for United. And you think about where we were there and how things were looking up, for example, we were looking good to win on a trophy. We did go on to win a trophy. We're getting ourselves in that top four, and we thought that everything was starting to come back together. And you fast forward 2 years, and we are back to where we were. And it just tells you how it's not a play issue, it's not a manager issue, it's a systemic issue within the club, where bad signings, bad management, bad acquisitions of managers, coaches, staff, bad systems, and the likes have just seen a bit of an implosion at a club where things used to just run so smoothly, and now everything is basically one big problem. But yes, we'll also be talking about a potential hashtag Pog back move, a bit of a tease coming from the former United midfielder. So lots to talk about in the show ahead. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, as well as smash like on the video as well. Right, let's get into it. And the one thing I want to talk about the most is the Marcus Rashford situation, a bit more on it. So obviously, we've all seen what Ruben Amorim had to say about Marcus Rashford, and the fact that he would rather put his 63-year-old goalkeeping coach into the side ahead of him. But I want to talk a little bit about what that means. I'm not so much talking about Marcus Rashford here. We are now seeing a side of Ruben Amorim which the players need to kind of be warned about, and maybe I think this is a bit of a warning from Ruben Amorim, almost a bit of a laying down the gauntlet to the players, saying, if you do not perform, if you do not, conform to what we're trying to do, if you do not buy in to my vision, the way I'm going to do it, I do not care who you are. I don't care how good you are. You will be excluded, and you will find, yourself struggling to find any sort of game time at Manchester United. I think this is the big thing about where Ruben Amorim is right now as a manager, is that he is still quite young, turned 40 on Sunday, although he did say that he feels 50. But the big thing is he needs to stamp his authority on the squad and show people that whilst he might be a young manager, inverted commas, that he is in charge. And it is very reminiscent of the Jose Mourinho era, isn't it? With the whole unspecial one, he came in very young. A lot of people doubted him, for example. He had a huge, task ahead of him. And we all know how Jose Mourinho did deliver. Now, Ruben Amorim's having to kind of basically try and win the respect of the fans, the media, a big thing, as well as the footballing world, by doing a job at United. And the one thing that he's doing at the moment, which maybe previous managers didn't, is making big calls right at the bat. And he's not afraid to make those big calls, like ostracizing Marcus Rashford, like dropping Garnacho, who was one of our best players last season. He's not afraid to sort of criticize some of the players who aren't playing well. He's not afraid to talk about the fact that we as a team are really, really poor. And he's not going to sort of hide away from the bad form and the bad moments. He's very much going to, front it up. And the main thing that I think he's talking about is that he believes in himself, and he doesn't actually, I think, really care if you don't believe in him. But he believes in the system, and he's not going to let anybody else tell him otherwise, basically. And he's not going to be, drawn into any sort of debates about whether he's good enough and the likes of that. He knows what he's doing, or he believes he knows what he's doing. And if you don't buy in, then you can basically shape up or ship off. And that kind of concept has been kind of lacking to a certain degree. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to do it to a certain degree. I don't think it was really backed by the club to be able to drop and potentially sell players who weren't rising to the occasion, who weren't delivering, who weren't part of his plans. And I think that he had some bold plans he wanted to do. And whether it was the right man to do them, it doesn't matter. He wanted to, I think, sell certain players. He wanted to bring in certain players. And I think that the powers above him didn't give him that space, didn't back him to be able to sell the players he wanted to sell, to be able to bring in the players that he wanted to bring in. And Ruben Amorim, I think, is very much seen what's gone on at United during the Mourinho era, during the Van Gaal era, during the Solskjaer era, during the Rangnick era, during the Ten Hag era. He is not going to go down. He's not going to become a scapegoat. That's, I think, the big thing. I think it's really, really good. I think Ruben Amorim has decided he will not become a scapegoat for United's bad performance. He will not become a scapegoat for United's bad systems, bad issues. He is going to come in. He is going to make sure he gets what he wants, or he's going to at least be very clear about what he wants, and whether he's going to get it or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think what he wants to do is basically say that he is going to make the big calls. He needs to be backed by the powers to be, and if he does get all the backing and he does get the support he needs, he can then deliver. So then it's a bit of a challenge that he throws out to Ineos. And obviously this would have been the conversation he had with Ineos, where he basically would have said, when they approached him, I'll leave Sporting in the middle of the season after an unbeaten start and potentially one of their best ever seasons. But there has to be conditions. And one of the conditions has to be that he's going to get backed. And now he's coming out and almost sort of challenging them to back him up, to offload Marcus Rashford, to, if they need to, offload Garnacho, to bring in players that he wants to bring in. But also, that they can't going to meddle with his team. They're not going to sit there and say, listen, you will play Marcus Rashford because, he's on, £300,000 a week. You will play this player. You will use this system. You will be like this. At the end of the day, Ruben Amorim has basically, said to them, this is how I work. This is how I operate. If you want me, this is what you're getting. You are getting this package. I'm not changing to you. You will adapt to me because that's what, you want me. He's got the bargaining power. And he's not going to now be changed and be put into awkward situations by higher people. And then he gets scapegoated 2 years down the line and gets told, well, you're the issue. You weren't good enough. And we rinse and repeat. So it's quite a refreshing take. It's going to be an interesting thing because I think he's far more direct and far more confrontational than I think previous managers. He's far less diplomatic in that he pretty much says what he wants, says what's on his mind at the time, which maybe has not been the best thing in certain instances. Sometimes I think he has said the right thing. Sometimes I think he's gotten things a bit wrong. But I think that's the nature of the game. And he's very unapologetically him. And he's very unapologetically opinionated. And he's not going to sort of mince his words. So he'll probably learn to navigate things slightly better in the future. For example, even Jose Mourinho toned it down and kind of learned how to very more subtly kind of manipulate situations and get his point across. Whereas at the moment, Ruben Amorim is very, very blunt. And he said so himself. He said he's very blunt. And he said sometimes he says things he kind of regrets immediately. So it's all part of the learning process, not so much from a managerial point of view, but from a dealing with the English media, dealing with the Premier League and the pressure that come with a team like United itself. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how he kind of does navigate it all. But I think the main thing is that his treatment of Marcus Rashford is a warning to players that it will be ruthless. If you do not perform, if you do not buy into a system, if you do not, pick up your slack, he's got no issue dropping you. He'll have no issue then basically forcing out the club and forcing you out. And I think the main thing, especially with sort of selling Marcus Rashford, is that nobody is untouchable. You go back 2-3 seasons, your untouchable players would have been a Marcus Rashford, a Bruno Fernandes, and that pretty much more or less would have been it at the time. Now, you think that Kobe Mainoo is probably a bit more untouchable, or even him, it looks like he could be, on the... But your untouchable players are like your Lenny Euros. I'll say Rasmus Højlund, but I think at the moment, I think we probably would be able to say him, but, Bruno Fernandes, Lenny Euro, Amad Diallo, those are probably your sort of three untouchable players in terms of we like the contracts they're on, we like the situations we've got, we like the profile, we like the player, they're happy with the club, they're not really part of they're not expendable. But everybody else, you don't buy into the system, we can chip you out. We can send you somewhere else. We don't have to actually have you. And it's also about United as a club getting that power back. We need to start removing so much player power and basically saying, well, we're the club actually. You've got to actually remember, you work for us. You are part of our club. Our club existed long before you and will exist long after you. And if you're not going to, buy into the vision and you're not going to be part of the solution, then get out the club. And it was far easier to do that as Ferguson when you're on top. Whereas at the moment, players are like, okay, fine, well, you're sinking ship, I'm going to leave. But we've got to remain strong. We've got to say that's fine. And we've got to be sitting there not begging players to stay. We've got to be willing to lose players. We've got to be willing to have conflict and willing to have fights with players. If it means for the greater good of the club, we start moving forward. And even if it really means resetting and becoming a side that just gets into the top 10 for 1 or 2 seasons, then a side that gets into the top 6, and then a side that gets to the Champions League. It's one of those things, maybe we do have to really go back to basics and start building slowly but surely into the force we were. Maybe this isn't going to be quite as easy as a quick sort of hatchet job where we can just bring in a few players and get ourselves back to the top. But yeah, so that's I think the big thing that Ruben Amorim is saying, that he's not going to, if he gets sacked or not, he's not going to go down without a fight, and he's not going to go down without expressing exactly what's happening, where he's at as a manager, what he wants out of the club, and where he's going to get it. Let's talk a little bit about some interesting transfer rumors, shall we? And we'll start with the big one that is circulating, and that is this one, the Pogba rumors. So where this all sort of stems is last night, Paul Pogba put 2 images on his story. And first was one with him in Miami. So over here, looking over Miami, saying, and the caption was, "Let's see what's coming." And then the next one was this graphic of him and Amad Diallo in the United shirts, with he posted with a laughing emoji. So that's obviously sparked rumors that he could potentially be on the way back to United. I don't think it's quite that simple, to be honest. I think that's a pretty a hot take. I don't think we'll ever see Paul Pogba back. What I think is very weird and very interesting is how many fans want him back. How many fans saying, "Oh, but look, the dual 10 roles, this could be the perfect formation. Ruben Amorim is going to be quite hard on him. He's going to get him back to playing his best." I mean, when you think about the toxicity within the United and everything that was wrong 3-4 years ago, he was part of the problem. Now, yes, I do think that, he was at one stage he was a player with lots of ambition, playing in a team that wasn't good enough, that he wasn't getting the support, that he was, a lot better than the team was, and, his career was stalling. But look at what happened after that. He's now been banned, for example. He's gone to events. Things haven't happened for him. And there's no doubt that he was not the right type of player under Mourinho. And I think that he was a very poorly managed. I think he was too difficult to manage. So would I take him back? No, I don't want him back, because first of all, we don't know what player he is. Yes, you could be taking him on a free. It's not going to cost you anything. And I suppose, you take him on a free. He starts playing again in March. And, maybe he goes on and becomes the type of player that he was. There's no guarantee. And again, what kind of message is that sending when you're trying to rebuild, the kind of mentality, you're trying to rebuild the systems at United and being very cutthroat and making sure that you have to be in the right type of player and the right type of profile and work hard and the likes of that, if you then go hand out contract to somebody who for so many years was a major part of the problem itself. So I don't think we're ever going to see Paul Pogba back at United. I don't think we should, to be perfectly honest. But let me know if you would like to see it. Where are you sitting with that situation? But obviously, moving into the big news over here is this update here coming from Fabrizio Romano, which I've just lost. And that is Manchester United feel that they can get Patrick deal agreed in 24/48 hours. So basically, hopefully by Thursday, Patrick Dorgu should be a Manchester United player. This is obviously big news, and this is the news we've been waiting for. This is our big sort of transfer, story of the window, and probably very likely our only signing that we actually managed to get over. So it'll be a bit frustrating if this is the only signing, but it is good news that we are at least getting to that point where hopefully we should be getting him across the line, because we first of all need a player in his position. We really need to sort out, more sort of wing backs and the likes of that. He's the young player, the young profile player, and the main thing is the player that Ruben Amorim wants, and we need to start giving him what he wants. So he's the right profile. I don't think it's a terrible price tag. I think all deals point to it being a reasonably good move. I personally am more concerned about the outgoings than the incomings. In all honesty, yes, I'm very excited to have Patrick Dorgu come in. I think he's going to be a big boost. But I'm more interested in terms of the long-term project. What is our long-term project? And that is selling players, freeing up wages. There was a big thing this morning saying that Ineos very blatantly want to try and free up the wages, and shipping of Casemiro, Marcus Rashford, even Harry Maguire in the summer that does a lot for freeing up our wages. Christian Eriksen, for example, not a massive wages, but it frees up wages when he does go, compared to like a Toby Collier, who's at the moment getting more game time in the last couple of games. So big mission is to reduce costs, obviously. So reduce wage bills, try and give them more power as a club. Stop handing out these ridiculously large contracts which the club can't really afford, and it's so unjustified. And then you look at the type of players that get them. You've got to start playing players more for where they are and what their ability is, where they are, and stuff like that. Not just on reputation but on ability. Mason Mount, for example, is on a very big contract. He's been a disaster signing so far. So small things about getting that sort of player power back from the players and getting it back into the managerial power and the club power in terms of being able to say no to players, being able to say no to new signings. And if you want to come play for United, at the moment, we previously had to pay, players stupid amounts because United was just such a bad state that we had to convince them. And again, even if it sort of takes us back 1 or 2 years, you've got to get that power back. You've got to become that club where you're not sitting there. You don't have to convince people to come. You're like, oh no, but what if we just pay you more? And the guy's like, oh well, I'm not going to come win any trophies, but I'm going to earn a lot of money. We don't want to be that club. We want to be that club where people will take lower wages or take just fair wages because they want to be part of the club that is Manchester United. At the moment, we don't have that pool. We don't have that come play for United dream come true pool because the dreams are coming to die at the moment. It's the theatre of nightmares currently. And hopefully when we build a new stadium, we can hopefully get a theatre of dreams back. But at the moment, it is the theatre of nightmares, and we're having to overpay players. We have to overpay transfer fees for players to try and get players into our club, and we're not really seeing the benefits of it. So yeah, that's again a long-term thing. We need to really try and get things sorted. Another deal that is looking pretty solid is this one over here. And that is Manchester United in vast talks to see deal to sign Aiden Heaven from Arsenal, the 18-year-old talent. So we are apparently Eintracht Frankfurt and Barca have made a purchase. We are currently the clear favourites according to Fabrizio Romano, and Arsenal also offered him a new deal. So yeah, bit of a different one. Once again, very young player, so you can just see the type of profile that United are currently going for. Younger players, more sort of for the future type of thing, not just going and signing sort of those ready-made stars, the likes of that kind of the Galacticos approach, which just didn't work for us. We've tried the Galacticos approach. We had Falcao, Di Maria, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. We've had some massive players and some great players come to our system, but not really work. Pogba was one of them as well. And then you also look at the money wasted on Anthony and players like that. So yeah, we're very much trying to sort of change our way, which is good to see. It is good to see. Whether it'll work, we have to wait and see. Though that's always the part of it. It's always a good concept in terms of going and getting these players who are young, exciting, and you think, well, we'll create a 65, 75 million pound player instead of buying one. But you got to actually have the capacity to do that, and that's a big thing that Ruben Amorim also needs to kind of prove. Not just so much his ability as a manager, but him and his coaches. Can they produce world-class talent? Can they take a Kobbie Mainoo and make him one of the best midfielders in the world, which is what people believe he can become? Can they make Amad Diallo into a world-class player? Can they produce talent as well, or do we have to go and find players that can then play in a system and we actually not have the ability to take players up a level? We don't want to just have system-based players. We want to be able to have players who are world-class, genuinely world-class. Because Bruno Fernandes is the only one in the squad right now who is genuinely world-class. And when have we ever seen a United side that only has one world-class player? And that's the truth. There's nobody else in this United side right now you can say is genuinely world-class. Players that had world-class moments. I mean, Amad Diallo is having a terrific season. He's not world-class just yet. Lisandro Martinez is someone who I think has got a lot of potential, even like Eleni Euro, for example. Ugarte, I think, it will become world-class. I think he's probably the closest to being world-class of the players we currently have. But we currently only have one player who, you'd be able to sort of start fitting into World 11s and FIFA Pro 1, 2 teams, the likes of that could fetch £100 million, the likes of that. And that is Bruno Fernandes. So we need to get back to having 2, 3, 4 world-class players in our side. In fact, a team stacked of world-class players. Back when you had a Scholes, a Beckham, a Cantona, Jaap Stam, a Van der Sar, a Ronaldo, etc., 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 etc. But also players that are world-class in their peaks of their powers, not players just coming to the end of the career and now we're getting them. So, yeah, The last sort of big transfer story is something which I really, really hope does happen, and that is the potential Casemiro-Ronaldo link-up. So there has been a boost in the story in terms of Casemiro potentially leaving, and that is over here being reported by the Manchester Evening News. So basically, what is happening over here is trying to find over here that Al Nassr have looking to sell Anderson Talisca, who is apparently going to join Fenerbahce, so Jose Mourinho over there. And if that happens, then it means that Al Nassr can then find a new foreign player. So at the moment, they've got no space for more foreign players. If that were to happen, then there would be a new foreign player spot available. Now, there is talk that they are potentially looking at a different player, but if not, then there is obviously space for Casemiro if they want to bring him in. Also, a couple of other weird rumors that, for example, I think something like Besiktas was potentially looking at potentially. Roma. Roma was apparently looking for information on him, whether he's available and the likes of that. I don't think any club out there at the moment can afford his wages other than like an MLS or a Saudi club. So I don't see him going into anywhere besides a Saudi club or the likes of thereof. But hopefully, we do manage to try and get him off, even on loan, just free up some wages for 6 months. He's not going to play a lot of. I mean, I'd rather be giving Collier the minutes than any minutes to Casemiro. Unfortunately, the move's just not quite worked for him, and need to try and then move on and find somebody who's going to really contribute to the squad. So we'll wait to see. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is